Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about CPI, the Consumer Price Index, and what I feel is going to be the increase for your CPP pension in January of 24. Now we had a historic increase last year of 6.3%, and I don't believe it's going to be that high this year, but I think it's going to be pretty good even so. But first of all, here's a video that you can find on the Canada Statistics website that explains how they calculate CPI a little better. So take a look at this first and then we'll talk a little more.
The Consumer Price Index, commonly referred to as the CPI, is a measure of the rate of average price change for goods and services bought by consumers in Canada. The CPI is the most widely used indicator of inflation. Imagine a shopping basket. Fill the basket with things that you and other people in Canada might buy. Now track the cost of this exact basket over time. The change in the cost of the basket is a basic illustration of pure price change, which is what the CPI measures. The CPI basket includes all goods and services purchased by households in Canada, the groceries you buy, the electricity and water rates you pay, the haircuts you get, the hotels you stay in, and much more. Each item in the basket receives a relative importance or basket weight that represents the proportion households spend on each item. For example, a much larger share of Canadian spending goes to gasoline than to milk. Therefore, gasoline will receive a larger weight than milk in the CPI basket. The basket represents the purchasing patterns of Canadian consumers, which change over time. Years ago, for example, the CPI included the price of a record player or 8-track. Today, the basket includes items such as smartphones and computers. Frequently updating the basket ensures that the CPI remains representative of consumer spending. With a practically infinite selection of goods and services, measuring the price of the basket requires a large-scale, coordinated effort by Statistics Canada. Most of the price quotes used to calculate the CPI are collected in retail outlets in numerous locations all across the country. The collection is done by Statistics Canada employees, known as interviewers. Other prices are collected at Statistics Canada headquarters using sources such as administrative data and the Internet. In order to measure pure price change, interviewers visit retail outlets and collect prices each month for identical products. Changes in the quantity or quality of collected products are taken into account. For example, if the size of a juice box becomes smaller, but the price does not change, consumers are implicitly paying more for the item. Adjustments are made so that these changes are reflected in the CPI. To ensure that the CPI is a high-quality indicator of consumer price change, Statistics Canada follows internationally accepted methods that compare favorably with those of other statistical agencies around the world. The Canadian CPI is used for a variety of purposes, including adjusting wages or payments in order to maintain purchasing power in an environment of changing consumer prices. For example, pension payments and tax brackets are adjusted based on changes in the CPI. The CPI is also used by governments and businesses as a tool to evaluate the performance of the economy and to help guide the formation of fiscal and monetary policies. Thank you for watching. Visit Statistics Canada's website if you would like more information on the CPI.
What I find interesting about that video is when they talk about how they have different sizes of baskets of different goods. Now, in the last couple of years, we've all seen certain items, fuel, groceries, rent, and mortgages, which are correlated to interest rates, go up in massive scale. But the way they calculate it is they use a bunch of other different things that are purchased in the economy, and that actually makes the inflation rate look lower than it actually is. It's kind of a bait and switch, because we all know right now that rent and mortgage payments and food are still elevated. In the last month, the inflation rate for food was around 9%. And things like electricity in places like Alberta are up 124% in the last year. So it's not a real, real good calculation of the inflation that the average Canadian is paying for sure. So how do I think this is going to relate in comparison to what kind of an increase we're going to get in our CPP payments in January of 24? Well, first of all, the Canada pension rate increases are calculated once a year using the CPI, all items index. So like I said, they use everything across the board. The increases come into effect each January and are legislated so that benefits keep up with the cost of living. The rate increase is the percentage change from one 12-month period to the previous 12-month period. CPP payments were increased by 6.5% in January of 23 based on the average CPI from November of 21 to October of 22 divided by the average CPI from November of 2020 to October of 2021. Note that if the cost of living decreased over the 12-month period, the CPP payment amounts would not decrease. They would stay at the same level. So the law says that it can't decrease our CPP. It can only go up when the cost of living goes up. So the fact that we still have fairly substantial inflation. In July, the reading was 3.3%. And in, I think, March and April, it was up around 4 or 5%. My thought is we're going to end up getting an increase in January of 24 of about 3.5 to 4% in our CPP. So not as much as last year, but when you think about this, it's all cumulative. So we got 6.5 in 23 of January, and now this 3.5 or 4% that we might get in January of 24, it's going to also take into account that extra money that we got in 23. It's kind of like compound interest when you put money in the bank in that sense. So it works out pretty good, and it helps us seniors get a higher payment. So I hope this little video helped you understand the CPI a little better and what kind of an increase you might get in January of 24. So please subscribe to my channel, hit that like button, it is free. Share this video with any of your friends on social media who you think could benefit from this kind of helpful information. And I appreciate you watching, and everybody stay safe and well. Cheers for now, Rob.